And so the reason why we created this webinar was to share knowledge from practice. So things are easy in theory, like there's a few rules how you do X, Y, Z, but when you apply it, turns out can be kind of more difficult than you thought. And these gentlemen here, together with me, we have all practiced using these things. So it's a time to share experiences from that, and hopefully inspire you, give things a try, saying, "Hey, how hard can it be?" With that, let's introduce ourselves. So, Marcus.
Yeah, I'm Marcus. I'm a product coach. I've been working with Jan and Matthias for many years on clients and engagements relating to the product model, and I'm very excited to kind of share our experience in a condensed format for the next 55 minutes or so.
And I'm Jan Grape. I worked with Marcus at several clients doing introducing the product model or product operating model. And I work with Matthias at several clients to introduce a new style of leadership and help companies move towards better ways of working.
And Matthias, first I need to say that Marcus is an awesome product coach, and Janne is an awesome product and architectural coach. I'm struggling to keep up with their heritage, basically. One reason I got a little bit interested in this is an empirical learning, which is that the companies I've helped getting started with Agile, either through simple Agile technologies or methods or safe, what they did after getting started was kind of interesting. And the ones that have continues to improve, and after the basic cookie recipe, like starting safe, that went beyond it, they tried some interesting stuff. And the stuff that they tried, that's what you're going to see. So
Great.
Let's have a quick look at the agenda, Marcus.
Yes, let's do that. So, Matthias, what are we going to walk through today?
Well, it's pretty simple. Product model, like what the heck is that in a nutshell?
Yes.
Highlighting also some of the benefits of companies using it, and also some things that makes it different from a standard process framework, because it isn't really. Then share a little bit about the context and environment that are essential that you have to put in place for product teams to work, and share case stories experiences with a little bit of Q&A. In a nutshell, pretty simple.
Great. All right. And we have a section here for questions and insights, so feel free to kind of write questions throughout, because you can access the Miro board now. So let's talk about the product model. So what is it? And we use a quote here from Marty Kagan himself, because the product model is coined by SVPG and Marty Kagan, and it's a way to boil down what makes companies successful who work in a real agile environment, who connect agile empowered teams with business goals and business strategy. And that's the missing piece, I think. What Matthias is alluding to, or was alluding to before, is that we've been doing agile, right? And some agile implementations have been successful or very successful, and some hasn't, right? And a hypothesis why Agile hasn't worked in a certain environment is because Agile hasn't been connected to the business context. So business stakeholders haven't seen the true value of Agile. And product model is the missing piece, we think. One of the missing pieces, not the whole story. And so what is it? It's a set of principles. It's not a process, right? It's a set of principles that the most successful tech-powered products live by. So how they are truly agile. And what that means is three things, basically, if you boil it down to its essence. So three core ideas is that teams are not responsible for shipping, right? They're responsible for tackling product risks early. So doing product discovery to ensure that the products that they're building are successful. And they do that by collaborating. So instead of having waterfall in the organization or waterfall in agile teams, which is sometimes the norm, you really dial up collaboration between product, PM side, design, and technology. and to collaborate in product discovery to figure out the right product to build. And then the third point, which is really key, is that you're not responsible for shipping that we talked about before, but you're responsible for creating results, creating outcomes for the business. And so it's profit and loss or other metrics that are important for customers and the business, right? And these teams, they monitor what they're working on. So they're not delivering projects. They're monitoring the health of the product. They iterate on the product and then also think about new ways to help customers and the business. And feel free, Jan and Matthias, to kind of jump in and add color as we go in deeper. Yep. So just to create a comparison between what we call the project mindset versus the product mindset. So in a project mindset, it's all about output and delivering the scope, right? In a product mindset, stakeholders and leaders value outcome and impact. So outcome for customers and also financial impact.
So how do you distinguish between outcome and output in this case?
So outcome is what comes out of the product. So the behavioral changes for the customers, so that you're helping the customers solving their problems, right? Output is stuff that you put in your backlog, Jira tickets or user stories or epics. And sometimes we just focus on delivering things rather than making sure that the stuff that we're delivering is creating an impact or an outcome. So it's a subtle thing. It's easy to talk about and hard to do in reality, but it's a mindset shift.
Thank you.
And then we talked about the risks, right? So in the project setting, it's about scope, budget, and timeline. And here the main risks are, is it relating to value? Is the stuff that we're creating valuable for the customer and the end user? Viability, does it work for the business, right? The stakeholders surrounding us, customer service, marketing, sales, and whatnot, depending on your context. Feasibility, is it feasible to build in the short term, but also in the long run? And then usability, a risk. So will customers and end users actually understand how to navigate and to use the product? Another important aspect is, in the project mindset, you deliver features and then you jump on to the next kind of initiative. And here, in a product mindset, you continuously work on refining and improving your product. So from time to market to time to money, time to value, that you're measuring things and measuring that you're moving the needle in terms of important business metrics. Here, limited cross-functional collaboration. Here, we're dialing up cross-functional collaboration, both in discovery and delivery. And then the last point I think we should emphasize is technical debt is not actively managed in a project mindset. Because you're jumping from the next thing to the next, right? And that makes it hard to think strategically about technical debt. But in a product mindset, you should have that top of mind. And in terms of how you shift towards the product operating model, you can think about 3 different waves. And they don't need to be, you do one first and then you do second and third. You can do them simultaneously, but these aspects are key to moving towards the product model. And it's the number one thing is how you build and deploy, making sure that you have fast flow, so product delivery, and focusing on feasibility, scalability, and continuous integration, and so on.
And I would say that that's what many companies have become really, really good at using Agile.
Mm. So then you can quickly jump to number 2, how you solve problems, product discovery. So this is a big shift, right? And we talked about that before. So traditionally, teams have been handed requirements, stuff to build by some stakeholder outside the team. And now we're saying to teams, it's up to you to figure out the right solution. Here's a business problem to solve. Go out, talk to customers, prototype, and make sure that you're building the right thing.
And I think it's important to focus on that we're solving customer problems.
Yeah.
We're not solving our own technical problems. We've done that in number 1 already. It's how do we make the work life of somebody else better? That's the kind of solutions we're talking about.
Exactly. And then the third aspect is all about focus. Because if you're working in the project model or having project mindset, it's all about delivering projects. You might call them initiatives or something else that sounds more agile, but they're pet ideas from stakeholders typically. And that is not a strategy. That's just a list of things to deliver. So number 3 is all about focus and defining ways that you could win in the future for your product. And that requires focus. That requires collaboration with other people surrounding you and your leadership team. So that's a key point to focus more on defining ways that you could win in the future. So both the kind of the short-term aspect and the long-term aspect of creating competitive advantage.
And I'd like to chip in here a little bit, because this is a shift required for people in leadership positions to shift to the strategy scene and to sharpen their knowledge about how to shape and create and anchor a strategy that, can keep a steady direction over time. And this is something new and can be a little bit awkward in the beginning, but it's a crucial and a very important enabler.
Yes. And so you might ask, what are the benefits of doing this thing, of moving towards the product model and empowered product teams? So what we've seen, Jan, Matthias, and myself over the years, is that this creates increased innovation coming out of teams, right? Because they're closest to the information, closest to the customers, closest to the people who are actually using their solutions. So they make smarter decisions. And then happier teams, so eNPS increases. We've seen tremendous improvements in eNPS because of the product model. I think one company, I can't remember exactly, but it was like 20-30% increase year on year, maybe even more than that, by introducing the product model in a medium-sized company. And then faster time to money. What we mean by that is instead of delivering projects, you're increasing the competency in teams to make smarter decisions, which will lead to improved business outcomes. So faster and also business outcomes is key.
Yeah, and the happiness of the teams are strongly correlated to the fact that they're actually communicating with the receivers of their work actively. Instead of just moving on to the next feature, they study and follow up what's going on at the other end of the delivery.
Exactly.
Receiver end.
Yeah. And let's talk about an empowered product team. So what are the competencies and roles in that context? So an empowered product team is part of the product model. And it's kind of the fundamental aspect of the product model, that you have these teams who are autonomous and they work with product discovery to figure out the right thing to build. And you have 3 perspectives, so user, business, and technology, or customer, business, technology. So you have a product designer, a product manager, a tech lead, and engineers. And they have focus areas, right? But they're all fundamentally focusing on creating value. So instead of, if you think about the project mindset is about delivering features, they're focusing on creating value. So monitoring the key metrics for their product and making sure that they build the right thing for those metrics and ultimately for the customer and the business. And they're not all friends, right? There should be healthy friction between these 3 perspectives. Because if there's no friction, then you create lackluster products.
Yeah,
and
sometimes call it creative tension.
Creative tension. That's nice. I haven't heard that. And something that we hear when we're moving towards empowered product team, or we're on a journey to move towards the product model, and we hear teams say, "Yes, we're empowered. We can do whatever we want," and that's fundamentally a flawed perspective, right? Because it's not just about empowerment. You need to make sure that what you're doing is connected to the bigger perspective, and business goals and customer problems. Otherwise, you're just creating technology for the sake of technology. And Johan, maybe you want to talk about kind of the trajectory or how kind of organizations move in relation to the product model.
One of the ultimate goals of applying the product model is to become value optimizing organization, and you find that to the far right in this curve, so to speak. But we've discovered that companies tend to go through a couple of phases with either when they start up as a company or they start a new endeavor with a completely new product, and they start with a small team that work closely together, and we call it ad hoc process. It doesn't really matter what kind of process they're using. If you have 5 smart people in the same room to solve a really difficult problem, they'll just find a way of doing it. Eventually, they want to become more. They want to deliver more. So we start to focus on hiring more people. And now we have to train the new people that weren't there from the beginning on how to build this product. And so we're focused on that rather than being focused on value. But this is a very nice place to be because we have some initial success and so forth. But as the company become a scale up and realize that our customer demand is now higher than our own ability to produce stuff, we focus shifts towards flow optimization to get things out there as quickly as possible. And this is where many companies stop because they're so happy that they get a more efficient delivery mechanism in the company. But the ultimate goal is to do really good business with every delivery. So that's why we come to value optimization. So Agile helps a lot with the first part of the curve. But once you're a scale up and you want to become more value optimization, the product operating model helps you with the rest of that journey.
Great. And let's talk about failure a little bit. So there are a lot of companies embarking on a journey to move towards the product operating model. And we call this the loop of transformation failure. So let's give teams the freedom to innovate. Excitement, right? In the beginning of the journey. So leaders are like, yeah, we're going to empower the teams. Let's go. And then, patience is a virtue, right? And then, are we there yet? Any updates? Getting anxious. Can they actually do this? Houston, we have a problem. No results. Abort mission. Back to micromanaging. Oh crap. Micromanagement stifles innovation. And we've seen this loop multiple times actually at the same client, unfortunately. And so this is real, right? And it might ring a bell for you. So and who is to blame here? Both leaders and teams, right? Leaders haven't given good strategic context, haven't coached and mentored the teams, haven't increased their competence in certain skills that are required. And then teams haven't created the transparency to show results. So it's really important to think about this loop of transformation failure if you're embarking towards the product operating model. Anything to add, Jan, Matthias?
No, we're getting into that. How do you help the team as a manager or a leadership in an organization? How do you help a team not to get into this loop? And that's called strategic context.
Yeah.
You provide a strategic context which tells the team what's our mission and what's our near or midterm goals.
Yes. So Jan just talked about this aspect. So in order to give autonomy, you need to have 2 pillars, competence and clarity. So competence meaning that the teams and the individuals need to be competent in the new skills that are required for this shift, right? So that is about assessing teams, coaching, staffing, training, and then clarity. So that's strategic context, clarity of direction. So they have strategic context. You give teams objectives, so problems to solve. Relating to the product strategy. And then also as leaders, you're creating alignment across the organization, which is clarity, right?
Yeah, and alignment is created by giving multiple teams the same strategic goals and objectives. And
yes.
They will contribute with their part in that pursuit of reaching the goal.
Yeah. So Jan, maybe you want to chat about this one. So the difference between strategic context and product teams.
Yeah, the strategic context is usually what people think about. We have a strategy and we have strategic goals, and that are certainly part of the company's strategic context. But there are some other parts of that sometimes are forgotten. The product vision is a way of how are we going to solve the problems and reach the goal and objectives that we have in our strategic plan or strategic context. And the team topology is how we organize ourselves in order to achieve this. And you can have a team topology based on technical components, which we don't advise to do, or you can have a team topology based on what kind of value we're delivering and to whom, which is a better way of organizing. We call that stream-aligned teams. And then we got to have strategies, which is principles and a way of going about how to reach the ultimate goals. Are we going to do it? Let's say we want to become the biggest company in the world, right? And our strategy could be, we try to be everywhere at the same time, or we go continent by continent. So we say, let's do North America first and see how we can get a foothold there. And after that, we go to South America and see how we get a foothold there. The sequence of intermediate goals is our strategy. And our product strategy is, what kind of problems are we going to solve in North America and later South America, and how do we want to make those solutions?
Yeah, which customer segments, which needs are we going to address with the product, and so on. So it's a way of kind of slicing the bigger thing into smaller chunks.
Yeah.
And then you have product teams.
And the product teams, they look at the strategic context and see we have an area of responsibility which entails a certain part or a certain product or part of a bigger product for certain user categories or customer segments. So let's say we build a thing that does the magic, and each team look at the strategic context and decide, this is the meaning for us in our context, in our part of the product. So let's say we are Spotify. I'm not saying Spotify is applying this, but everybody knows the streaming service. So maybe we have a team that thinks about how to find new music. For them, the objective of becoming really good big in South America is perhaps to do something that makes it particularly easy for those user categories to find good music, right? Whereas another parallel team is the one that play music and make sounds come out your earbuds. And for them, it might be something completely different, but the same goal. They share the strategic context that they want to conquer South America, for example. And that means that they have their objectives that will bring their part of the product closer to the common goal, and the other teams have done the same. So each team has their own objectives, but they work towards the same company goal.
Yeah. And then they do discover. Yeah, go ahead.
Thing here. For you who are becoming a transformational coach, help the organization to create successful product teams, it's very important to emphasize that you can train leaders, product leaders, senior leaders, in how to phrase and frame the product strategy, to frame the business objectives and such. And this is a very important enabler, because this is often new. And it's a huge difference compared to handing over features for someone to put in the backlog. So as a transformational coach, one of the enablers you give is training and knowledge and sometimes templates. How do you phrase these items, which is sometimes called the lack of those, is sometimes called the air sandwich. We know what to do on operational level, but we have a high level vision and nothing that glues this thing together. And this is a very important piece to create the context and environment for product teams. Yeah.
And that's a useful useful language to use when you talk to leaders and talk about the product model and how to avoid the air sandwich. So the air sandwich, it's clear at the top of what to focus on. It's clear for teams what to focus on in the short term, like the next sprint and the next increment. But what's in between is a big question mark. So good. All right.
I want to add a little bit to the teams. So
go ahead.
One thing is new for the teams is to create their own objectives that are aligned with the overarching strategic context. The other thing that's new but that we really emphasize is the feedback loop between figuring out what to build, ship it, and then see how it worked in the actual environment. So the continuous discovery and continuous delivery, instead of having discovery being made by a separate group like product managers and UX people that are outside more or less the team, we involve the entire team in the complete loop.
Yeah. And so it's about figuring out the right thing to build and then build it in small increments. And then you will get learning. So these are loops, right? That will go back and forth. And you mainly use prototypes. That's the big thing, right? And to avoid specifications as much as possible. Specifications are sometimes needed, fine. But it's communication and understanding that's the most important thing. And prototypes are way more powerful than a Jira ticket. And these are the risks that we talked about. And then what you care about in feasibility or in delivery are these aspects. You're making sure that the product that you're building is scalable, secure, performant, compliant, and other aspects that are important to you. All right.
I'd like to sort of make the jump over to case studies, case learnings, because I know that so many interesting parts and pieces that we could talk about, but we have to sort of draw the line somewhere. But a question I want to throw into you, gentlemen, Marcus and Jan, is this is an interesting theory. When you have applied, like, name one of the biggest challenges that you've seen for companies who've tried to use it.
I can jump in one, and then I'll hand over to Jan. But going back to these pillars, right, and the loop of transformation failure that we talked about. So one trap is not focusing enough on these two pillars before jumping into the product model. So not assessing the situation in terms of competency. So the training that's needed or new people that you need to hire, and then clarity of direction that you're not doing the work to create focus. And then I'll hand over to Jana.
Yeah, I agree with that. And another thing that I was going to mention is the fact that teams are not used to work with feedback loops from all the way from the end user perspective. So their engagement usually ends once the thing is put in production. And the only kind of feedback they normally get is the feedback when something goes wrong. Customer support or logs indicate an error in the product or something like that. But to actively go out there in the real world and search and gather feedback is something that's so new to many teams, which that part has usually been handled by a separate part of the organizations that are really not integrated with the teams.
Yeah.
So I would say that that's the new thing. And for some developers, it might feel at first a little bit like, what the heck are we doing this for? I want to write code. But like we mentioned earlier, the happiness and satisfaction of employee satisfaction of the teams actually increases once they get out there and see how people use the stuff they have been part of creating.
Awesome. Good answers, gentlemen. Can only second what you mentioned. Let's have a look at the real case study.
Yeah, so if you shift right to Voyado, is a Swedish company that helps brands to be loved by the brand's customers. So they do marketing and CRM tools for retail and e-commerce. They're very successful, and they've been on the Agile train for a very long time. So the CTO, Magnus Ahlberg, reached out to me and says, we're pretty good at what we're doing. We're very proud, but there got to be something else. There got to be a next step. So challenge us. See what could we potentially be. We don't believe we have reached our peak performance yet. So what comes next after Agile? Well, they have some challenges to handle rapid customer growth and to balance autonomy and collaboration. One risk with introducing autonomous teams is that they are not aligned with each other and they're working on different types of problems and different problems, and not really, you don't get the synergy effect of multiple teams. And they had goals, but still they were very feature oriented. And they wanted, as everybody wants, to make sure that they preserve and increase their own productivity, and they want to maintain their very high employee satisfaction. So they were looking at already when we were contacted on empowered product teams, and they want to see how would that work in real life in an organization. So we did an assessment and interviewed 20 people inside the organization as a cross-cut on all levels, managers and developers and other staff. And I suggested these 4 challenges for them to take on. And the first challenge was to create better alignment by sharing goals and metrics across the organization and not just have individual goals for each team. And to optimize the organization and the system architecture for their rapid growth and speed of development. Their organization was tasked to was organized pretty much according to the technical solution they had at the time, and not for growth. So the challenge there is to see what would the architecture and organization look like if we optimized for our business growth instead. And a very concrete thing that they came up with was that they want to halve their lead time from idea to money, time to money. And not time to delivery, but actually time to money. And they also wanted to show their clients how valuable the product is. And then by growing so fast, they were afraid to run into problems with culture and competence, because they have to train the people that comes in and not to underestimate the effort they need to bring to that. So those were the challenges that we posed to them. So in the first one, we introduced OKRs on the company level, and this was in beginning of 2023. They had OKRs that were company-wide, and the teams looked at them and see, what does this OKR mean for us? What will our contribution be? And we tried to fill the air sandwich between the strategic context and what we do today by introducing a better way of doing roadmaps. So a roadmap is not now a yearly roadmap, it's a 12-month sliding window. They had one OKR that was focused on improving their own capability of creating and delivering products. So the focus area, how to build and how you solve problems. And what we did there was to introduce empowered product teams. And it says here 7 empowered product teams. That's where we started. There are now twice as many empowered teams. And we introduced a training program for them where they could do on-the-job training, working at the same time with creating products and awesome services, as well as learning a new way of doing it. So moving on to the third OKR that we have was to halve the lead time and remove delays in the product development flow. So what we did was basically looking at their initial discovery process and getting rid of stuff that they would never ever build. They were using it like an infinite pile of really good ideas that they would not say yes to in the near term future. They might say, we might do that sometime, and they kept it in the loop and in the process and spent time on it. So we just cleaned up their product discovery process and got rid of waste. We limited the number of initiatives that were worked on in parallel that would focus the organization. And we identified and broke the bottlenecks by asking every team, what are your bottlenecks? And we did an analysis of that and found some really important bottlenecks in the organization that would slow down their time to money flow. Started to work on that, and we got amazing results.
I have a question. I'll throw in a question from Sima. Didn't catch how the OKR and optimized organization mapped to each other.
Okay, so when you set up company goals, you can have goals that will have a directional kind of feeling that this is where we want to make business. So you have goals that improves your own business, saying that, like I had in the example we talked about earlier, I want to conquer South American market or something like that. So that's and we can have an OKR for that. That's a goal that works apparently pretty much like a steering wheel, that this is the direction where we want to go with our company. So we want to go to South America, okay? But then we have other types of OKRs that concerns our own ability to reach our goals. That is, how strong is our organization? How strong is our own machinery to get there? So we could be aiming for South America for decades and never get there because our engine is broken, right? So that's also another type of OKRs that look at how can we improve ourselves to strengthen our ability to reach our goals. So they're both OKRs. One is business and market facing, and the other one is capability oriented. And Voyado had both kinds. There are 2 business related and 1 self-improvement related OKR. So what have we done so far? Well, we significantly reduced the lead time, time to money, and time to customer satisfaction. We increased the alignment of business priorities and internal work. By having a better road mapping process, we got rid of the air in between strategy and daily work, and replaced that with roadmaps that were a sliding window, and not just yearly roadmap, but 12 months, always look ahead. And the empowered teams are established. Everybody knows what it means to be an empowered product team. And like I said, we're about 15 empowered teams at the moment, and several bottlenecks removed. And the architecture now is being overhauled and optimized for this new organizational setup or this new team topology.
Jan, I actually find that quite impressive, because something that a common situation for me many times is that we know we want to make an architectural overhaul, but we don't have bandwidth to do it. It's always pushed to the future. So what I read here is that you created bandwidth for such things to happen.
Yes, and it's a journey. It's not something, you don't rewrite your internals of your product. You like with any product development, you have great benefits from doing it piece by piece in an evolutionary way. So we're talking about architectural evolution here, and not revolution or rewrites or anything like that.
And this is an awesome case. There's a lot of things we can mention, both about product model and about the case, but I'd like to leave the field open for questions. So we make sure we touch upon things that you are considering in your world. And I will start out with, and don't be afraid to ask hard questions. This is a great opportunity to tap into the people who really have struggled through real things and real challenges. But I'll throw in a question from Jimmy. In this model, what is a product? Our reality is that we have 3 to 20 teams to deliver some products. Are each team supposed to be releasing a full product on their own? Question mark.
Leave it to you, Marcus.
Yeah, I mean, a product in my world is that you have a team who is building something for the end customer, and or let me rephrase that. You can build internal products as well. So a user or a customer, right? But they're building something, a technology that's going to improve things for other people. So that is how I typically describe a product. Do you agree, Jan?
Yes, I do. And some products are very big, so that they provide many different aspects of helping somebody's every day. It could be everyday work, or it could be everyday life, like entertainment and such like that. And we could look at each aspect of it as a part of a product, a part of a bigger product, but it's like a set of features or set of functions that aids the end user to achieve some of their personal goal, whether it's entertainment or completing some aspect of work. So when I work with the Swedish police, for instance, fighting crime, they have, of course, they have the investigation product to investigate whether a crime is committed or not. But an investigation has several sub-products in it. It has to take care of the crime scene. They have to take care of witnesses. They have to take care of evidence and so forth. And for those, they have like an evidence team, a forensic team, and so forth, using IT to complete the entire process of solving crimes. So this big product and some sub-products for different purposes.
Yeah, I think there's a language challenge hidden here in the word product. I like to use product when I think about something that has value to a certain user segment. But in that, even if you have several teams that needs to collaborate to make that value happen, I like to introduce the word services that could be tied and mapped to individual teams. So each team can deliver a state-of-the-art user experience for a certain small customer segment and a specific service. So sometimes you can use those if it feels like product is just too big of a thing.
Yeah.
Jimmy Sjölund asks a follow-up here. How is that different from a component? A component doesn't necessarily deliver any direct end-user value. It's a building block. So when we're talking about products and services, it's something that benefits the end user.
Yeah, that's good. I agree with that.
All right. I mean, let's throw in a few questions, please. I know that there are questions in your mind. Don't hold them back.
Yeah. So write in the chat or raise your hand.
Anyway, we'll do our best to answer them. So I'll throw in a question while people write. So this seems like super easy. Is it?
Yeah, this is the silver bullet, and it will solve everything in your life. It will even make your toast taste better, of course. Now there are plenty of challenges here. The helpful thing about the product operating model is that it is a model. It's something to strive for. It gives you hints on where to look next to improve your own business, but also your own capabilities to deliver and get business done. So it's a helpful thing. All the plethora of problems still exist as usual, but it helps you to prioritize which ones to work on in a transformation towards becoming a better functioning company. So it's a guide.
Yeah.
Even if you have a guide, climbing Mount Everest is going to be really hard.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard shift. I mean, I think that we should just put the cards on the table. This is no easy feat, right? Transformation is hard. Shifting from this project mindset to a product mindset requires leaders to shift their behaviors and thinking and how they shape things for teams. And teams need to radically change how they work and collaborate. And so they need to spend way more time with discovery, right? And discovery is hard. Fact is that we're pretty bad at discovery, right? There's research around, success of product ideas, and the statistics are bleak, right? So the shift is hard, but we've seen time and time again the value of moving to the product operating model. And the benefits that we talked about in the beginning, so increased innovation, increased employee engagement, better business results, you will receive them, right? If you're serious about transforming. But it will take time. It's not something that you will see in a quarter. This will take more than a year. And our fundamental philosophy when it comes to moving to the product operating model is that you need to start small, right? You need to start with pilot teams. You can't do, Monday morning, everybody's empowered and we do the product model. That's destined to fail. I'm actually writing articles about anti-patterns relating to moving to the product operating model. So I'll paste that in the chat. So there are some learnings from engagement that Jan and Matthias and I have been working on for the last almost a decade, right? So the traps that you could fall into.
Given the fact that we're coming out to the close, I'm still want to take the opportunity to say, like, what can you do? Like, if you want to learn more, none of us started perfect in this group as people, transformation coaches. But there are two things, basically, I will highlight. The first is half of the success factor is managing the transformation. And if you want to learn more about how to actually make this transformation happen, there's a course coming up November 15th, where we share the practices that you can train the organization to level up their competences, basically. And for you who are here, we give you a 50% discount if you sign up before Friday, October 25th. And also, if that is not what you're aiming for, maybe you want to speed up, you want to actually apply and you run a pilot, reach out to us. Like, we'd love to have a chat with you. All right.
Yeah. I would also like to add a little reflection to this. This is presented sometimes as something radically new. And what's new about this? I was a usability engineer in the 90s, and we already talked about user value and all that kind of stuff. So are these new stuff really, or isn't it the old stuff just packaged in a different way? And the answer to that is, it's not new what to do. We have known about discovery work for a very long time. We have known about how to build products for a very long time. And we have known about making strategies and deciding what things to build and not to build for a very long time. The new thing here is not what to do, but how to do it and when. In the olden days, how to do it was done by a specialist in a corner and then sending a document to somebody that, please build this, right? But we do it very differently here. We involve the entire development team, looking at the three aspects from the customer point of view, the technical feasibility point of view, and the business point of view, making sure that we get thumbs up from all different aspects. Right. So it's different in who does it and how we do it. So that's the new thing. If you ever felt that this is not new. No, not the things we do, but how we do it and when we do it.
Yeah, connected to that, I mean, when we've done agile transformations in the past who haven't been successful, it's because we haven't connected agile development teams to business outcomes. And that is a key missing piece. And that's part of the product model. The whole idea with the product model is to focus on outcomes, right? Business results. And that teams are now business development teams in a sense, right? They're figuring out the right thing for the business and the customer. So both sides, so customer value and business value. To kind of sum up from my perspective is that I've drank the Kool-Aid, I've seen it work, and I highly suggest that you read more about this stuff.
Good. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking the time, sharing knowledge. I know there's tons more to pick your brains on, but let's make sure we create some time for people to go back to their daily jobs. Please, participants, drop us a line in the chat, like what you thought about this seminar, if things we could improve, if we would run it again, if you would run it again, things like that. With that, great thanks to you all, and I wish you a pleasant day.
Thanks, and enjoy your lunch.